Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for inviting us to talk to you tonight and for this fantastic opportunity to update you on the current work of the Contemporary Glass Society. The Contemporary Glass Society will be celebrating its 25th anniversary in 2022, and we currently have just over 950 members made up predominantly of glass artists who chiefly come from the UK, although we're having an increasing number of international members joining. We also have a small number of collectors, suppliers and the general public who are interested in glass. I appreciate that for the glass sellers, 25 years is no more than a blink in the eye, but for us it's a great triumph to have lasted so long. So I would like to introduce you to Pam Reiki, who is our administrator and our genius driving force behind the Society, who's got many years of experience within arts administration. And I'm Sue Purser-Hope. I'm a practicing glass artist, and I'm also the chair and the project manager for CGS. At CGS, we are passionate about contemporary glass. We're passionate about the makers. We're passionate about encouraging collectors and passionate about creating a market for future generations. So how did it all start?
Over to me.
It's you, Pam.
Yes. Well, I'm sure you're all aware the glass studio movement really began back in the late 1950s in America with Harvey Littleton, who was a ceramicist who ventured into glass, and he had a number of students. One of those students was called Sam Herman, and after he graduated from his course, he came to England, and he revolutionised really what was happening already in England. He went to the Royal College of Art, Edinburgh, and Stourbridge College of Art in the Midlands. And at that time, there were courses in England in glassmaking, but they were very traditional, quite a lot of stained and leaded glass courses and design courses for the industry. So a lot of students were designing work, but they never got to blow their own work. They had to hand their designs onto a master glass blower. Sam Herman showed them that you can actually do the work, you can actually get hold of a blowing iron and make something. This is one of his early pieces. I'm not particularly enamoured, but interesting. And he went on to also show students that they could build their own furnaces, and so they could create their own small studios. This totally revolutionised the glass world in England. And a few years after that, in London, we had the Glass House, which some of you are probably aware of, very famous blowing studio. And John Cook, who was a lecturer at Leicester College of Art, was a driving force really, and they created their own movement called British Artists in Glass, which was very affectionately called BAG. Everybody loved it, but it was really only for, they said it was only for professional artists and students. So it didn't allow hobbyists in. It was quite critical really in who it allowed into the organisation. But it did do wonderful things. It had conferences and exhibitions, and it ran until the early 90s. But it didn't have any funding, and it was run by volunteers, so it was hard to keep it going. And in the early 90s, it folded. It didn't keep itself going. So for a few years, we didn't have a glass organisation supporting makers. But in, I think it was 1997, Peter Layton, Colin Reid, Tessa Clegg, a group of glass artists decided that it was about time England had its own support organisation, and the Contemporary Glass Society was created. Colin Reid was one of the founders, and Peter Layton, who I'm sure you're all aware of. And this is the font, the logo that we created way back in 1997. We've never changed it. Also, our mission statement, we felt there's nothing wrong with it. It says what on the tin, and so we've run with it ever since, and we're very proud of our organisation.
So what do we actually offer members? Well, we do conferences, and they've always been at the heart of the CGS presence, and are where friendships are made and our community spirit enhanced. We soon learned, however, that venues and locations we chose were important to encourage members to travel. And it's quite interesting how difficult it often is to get people in this country to actually travel more than about 100 miles. So we actually started to choose really interesting venues, and these range from the Art Deco glory of the Deloitte Pavilion in Bexhill-on-Sea through to to the industrial heritage of the M Shed in Bristol, and through to the Eden Project in Cornwall. And here was where we had our 10th anniversary, our 10th birthday. And we celebrated with 10 events, including the conference. We invite a wide range of both British and international speakers to our conferences. We also encourage members to take part as well, and do a lot of quite sort of participation events, such as I can never say this word, Pechakutchers. And we also do a lot of really professional development as well. And this is an example. This is Simon Bruntnell talking about how your work is never finished until you have photographed it well. We also organise question times for glassmakers, and here with international artists Scott Chaseling and Paul Marioni at the International Festival of Glass in Stourbridge. Stourbridge, of course, was once the heart of the UK glass industry and is now a major heritage centre. We also commission participatory works, and here is Richard Wheater's Burning Fat, although I'm not sure how many calories were got rid of on this evening, but it was certainly a really amusing event.
Back to me, just a bit more information about the background of the Contemporary Glass Society. When we started in 1997, it was run as a voluntary organisation by volunteers. And again, it started to struggle. But luckily in 2002, we did get Arts Council funding, and that ran for 10 years. So it was quite a luxury period where we had time, we had money to spend on many things. Unfortunately, in 2012, the Arts Council, for their wisdom, withdrew all our money in one go, and it was very hard to survive. But we decided with determination and the support of our membership, we could survive. We became a charity, mainly due to Catherine Coleman telling us what a good idea it would be to become a charity. And so really we've never looked back, and we've carried on being a self-sufficient organisation with, as Sue said now, nearly 1,000 members, 950 members. We don't employ anybody on the books. We have part-time contracted staff. So we have an administrator, which is myself, the project manager, Sue, part-time web administrator, and we do pay for somebody to edit our magazine and to run the website. So we don't spend much money on administration, and we do keep the organisation running very well. As Sue said, we over the years we've encouraged our members to do schools workshops, going into many different schools up and down the country. We've run mentorships where we've brought new inexperienced members to work alongside professional, well-established makers, and that's really helped them establish their own careers. In 2009, we decided we needed to do more for graduates. so we started having a stall at the New Designers down in London, and we started a prize every year. But it's incredibly expensive. It was costing us, to begin with, it was £2,000 for a stall. Then it went down to £1,000 for, it's just a table really. And so we just felt we weren't really making the best use of our money. So we created the Graduate Review, a magazine, and the prize, and we ran that independently. And we're very pleased to say that the Worshipful Company of Glass Sellers have supported that review, and we couldn't have done it without your funding. And we've had 4 editions of this now. And although it celebrates 20 graduates in that magazine, they are incredibly grateful because it does give them a foothold into their career, and they can use that. And it also gets published in the very famous or very well established glass magazine, Neues Glas, a German magazine, which is circulated worldwide. And this gets reproduced in their magazine as well. So it's a great footstone for them. In 2017, one of our long-serving board members, Amanda Moriarty, unfortunately died. And so she was such a wonderful, inspiring person on our board. We decided to create the Amanda Moriarty Prize. And this has run for 4 years now. And luckily, an established maker has given time in their studio for a newly graduated person to come and work in their studio and having free access to the equipment. And again, this year, Callum Dawes, who is a very interesting up-and-coming young man, making very, as I say, interesting work. And I'm sure he's going to really enjoy his stay. He's got 2 weeks at the Husky Devereux Studios down in Wiltshire. We also realise how important education and higher education is, and there's so few courses now. They've all disappeared over the last 10 years. So we work very closely with the courses that are there. So in Sunderland and also Northlands is a private school, but it's so inspiring, and so many glass artists go up there for residencies and their weekend conferences. And it's a wonderful place that Dan Klein and Alan Paul helped establish with Bob McLennan. And, you know, it just really hasn't looked back. It goes from strength to strength.
So one of the other things that we found out that our members wanted were exhibitions, so places where they could actually show and sell their work. And so we provide 2 different types of opportunities. There are selected exhibitions in galleries that we have established solid relationships around the country, and then there are open exhibitions in public museums and art galleries. And we held our first selected exhibition at the Devon Guild of Craftsmen. Other shows have included London Glassblowers, which had Inspired, Contemporary Applied Arts Gallery in London, Remarkable Glass, and Emerging Artists Exhibition in Cambridge, which was Reflexivity. We also have selected exhibition venues, and these where we work with organisations such as the National Trust at Blackwell House, which is an arts and craft house in the Lake District. And here artists responded to the internal ethos of the house, and their work was then displayed as part of the contents. And this is an example of, I totally forgot her name.
Amanda Simmons, no. You got me, I've forgotten.
Anyway, you'll see her work again later on, but it is beautiful.
In 2012, I'm sure you're all aware, we had the Olympic Games, and we thought, well, we've got to do something. So luckily, we did apply to the Arts Council for project funding, and they did fund it, this project. So we spent the whole year running many different events. In fact, I think we had 70 events throughout the country, and we commissioned Bruce Marks to make this. This was our own baton, and this went round the country to the different venues along the way. We hired a gallery in London, which nearly killed us. It was very difficult hiring a gallery in London and doing everything ourselves. But we had 23 glass artists taking part. This is Louis' wonderful representation of every Olympic game that has been held. I'm not quite sure how many there are there. I own the first one. I bought that. I love it. It's a fantastic piece.
And I have Sydney.
Yeah, you've got one, the rock thrower, haven't you, Mark? David, there's one of David's throwers.
No, I have Sydney of Louis.
Oh, you have Sydney. Oh, right. Brilliant. Yeah, and Mark also has one of David's throwers. That's in the exhibition there. And then moving on to the festival in Stourbridge, we wanted to take part in the festival, and we weren't quite sure what to do, but we came up with this idea of everybody creating a medallion, and we've taken over this corridor in the Ruskin studios, and they're now permanently ours. So we've had, I think we've had 4 exhibitions there, which have been so successful. And Mark is he holds the record of the most purchased pieces from these exhibitions. I'm not sure how many you've got, Mark, but you have got quite a few. And they've been a great success.
I have 10 medals of these medals, one of which
Really?
I signed myself, if I remind you.
You did?
And then I have, I think, probably about another 6 or 8 from the other ones.
Brilliant. Yeah.
What's lovely about these is that they're priced. They're priced about sort of £50, £100, and we sell them at the end of the show. And there are these huge queues of people, literally queuing up to buy them. And each one that we do, we actually have a different theme. So we have postcards one year, and so different celebrations for our anniversary. So they are very successful, aren't they, Pam?
Yeah. We have had fights, and we've had to almost eject people from the purchasing them. It's been very interesting. Yeah, that's an example of one of the medallions. I mean, they really are. Some of them are so beautiful, and people put so much work in. And this is, you'll recognise this, Crabbing in Cromer. This is Miss Purser Hope's piece. That was from Wish You Were Here. It was a postcard show.
Okay, so in 2017, when we celebrated 20 years, we had started this really ambitious program called Glorious Glass, which were exhibitions which we held all around the UK in prestigious venues, and these exhibitions were open to anyone, and they were aimed especially at local artists, so that wherever the venue was, local artists were encouraged to actually exhibit their work there. And it was a wonderful opportunity because for many of our members, some of them had never exhibited their work, and this gave them that opportunity. And so this was we did one at Maidstone. Did one at Glasgow, the Trades Hall, which is the most amazing building. We also did one at Aylesbury in the Bucks County and Roald Dahl Museum. And by holding these exhibitions in venues that were not galleries but public buildings, it also encouraged local communities who would not generally see contemporary glass to take part not only in the show, but we also ran additional workshops and talks associated with each show. And so there were a lot of events going on at the same time, so that it's really encouraging people to actually meet and find out about their local artists. And these really ran until the pandemic basically has put a halt to them at the moment. And so also from the beginning of CGS, we have produced 4 printed magazines annually, and which is called Glass Networks. We've actually have started to change that now as really as a result of what has been happening. So we actually now have two printed and 2 online digital magazines. And so we'd like to introduce you to some of our members. So Catherine Schilling, who combines both kiln formed glass and hot glass to produce tactile, tangible and enduring pieces that explore the structural quality of glass. Alison Allam, who casts glass sculptures to comment on contemporary feminine themes and is well known for her shoes. Not that she's actually able to wear them, but they are amazing. Jenny Ayrton, who's influenced by her love of the sea and a childhood spent messing about on boats. She encases delicate wild elements within both sandcasts and blown objects. Philippa Beveridge, her work is concerned with time and memory. She juxtaposes and repeats forms which reflect these concepts.
Mim Brigham, who uses scientific microscopic images of plants and reproduces this in wonderful kiln formed glasswork. Heike Brashlow, who makes wonderful shapes and geometric forms, and she's very influenced by the colour. She likes to see the depth of colour in her work. I think this piece was bought by the V&A and is in the V&A. Sarah Brown, she's a great illustrator, and she works kiln formed using drawing techniques, architectural work, and she's recently branched out into casting as well.
Effie Burns. Effie often casts ordinary things like broccoli and other natural matter to create extraordinary cast glass landscapes where things are not always what they seem. Penny Carter is a bead maker who peels through glass layers to create edible fruit-like seeds, chili pepper and pomegranate, kiwi and prickly pear, spicy gooseberry or peppery damson. Catherine Coleman, well, what do I need to say? She engraves on clear lead crystal forms which have been overlaid with a thin layer of coloured glass blown to her design. Once blown, the top surface of the glass is cut away and polished, and she was awarded an MBE for services to glass engraving in 2009. So take a bow, Catherine.
Ian Chadwick, who is a master at kiln forming work. He uses rotational symmetry to achieve these incredible designs. Quite absolutely stunning and amazing work. Keith Cummins, who's one of the founders of casting in England. I mean, his books on casting are read by everybody. He's been at the forefront of kiln work really over 50 years. Chris Day is new to glass. He's a mature student. He's just graduated from Wolverhampton, and he's one of our only black glass blowers in the country. His work is very serious about how he feels being a black man in England, or mixed race person. So they're very symbolic and very powerful pieces.
Carrie Fertig is an interdisciplinary artist working in performance and installation, and she creates really beautiful pieces in lamp work. Beth Gates. Beth is a recent graduate, and her work is inspired by the colours and environments around her, and she actually sort of very much sort of distorts her work. Hannah Gibson. Hannah recycles glass waste that she collects from other artists and then creates figures, and she actually leaves these figures around the world, and then finds people actually contact her and say that they've found one of her figures, so that she has these figures who sort of travel around the world.
Gillis Jones have a studio up in the heart of Yorkshire, and their work is very much influenced by the landscape around them. They do beautiful bowls, always wonderful colours and great engraving on them. Joseph Harrington is a very interesting caster. He casts from ice. So he has huge blocks of ice that he works on, puts salt on and starts the erosion of the ice. And then he invests it in plaster molds and then makes these castings. And then he works hours and hours finishing the work off when it comes out of the mold. I hadn't realised quite how much time he spends on them until we had a lecture from him recently. And Jonathan Harris, who uses very traditional skills in cameo and graal work, multi-layered colours, and then engraved and cut away. Absolutely beautiful pieces and a stunning designer.
Laura Hart. Her passion is to artistically represent some of the most fundamental, beautiful and threatened organisms on Earth. And she has done these amazing orchids, and is now actually doing different variations, including light into them as well. Oriel Hicks is inspired by the beauty and clarity of light on the Isle of Scilly, which is where she lives. Lisa Pettibone. Lisa investigates areas where man and nature intersect, and her recent works have reflected a growing interest in astronomy and physics, and she's been doing quite a lot of work about space, working with a space lab, which we had a really interesting talk from her about.
Angela Jarman is one of our best core casters, although you can't actually see this in this piece. This piece looks as if it might be a little tiny trinket piece, but it's about 18 inches high, I think. So it's quite amazing. And again, she's master actual casting. Her techniques are really unique, really one of Britain's best core casters. June Kingsbury is an interesting. She works in really the fine art side of glass. She uses found objects a lot, and creates memories with her work. Alison Kinnaird, probably many of you know her work. I hope you do. Again, she's one of our very well-known engravers. Does some amazing work, beautiful windows she's done up in Edinburgh, and again was awarded an MBE for services to glass and art. She's also a wonderful musician. She plays the harp, and quite often we're very privileged to have a concert from her at a conference or something.
Arabella Marshall. Very informed that she makes pieces that form an inherent part of the environment. And this is a very recent work which is located in an abandoned chapel in the midst of the Suffolk marshes. And you cannot get to it except by foot. And again, we had a really interesting talk when she was explaining to us how how it took her years, because she's had to get all these permissions, because this is it's a protected site, not only for wildlife but also this actual building is, so that she has had to go through hoops to actually be able to install it. But it is now there, and they say you can only get there by walking to it. James Maskery, he works with hot glass, and his mastery of the material and techniques allow the glass to take on the visual qualities of porcelain, liquid, and he uses printed photographs and text a lot. And he has this remarkable sense of humour which he incorporates into his work. Well, Susan Purshome, a sheer genius, may I say. I have an absolute love of colour, and one of the main reasons that I really came into glass was the fact that it is so colourful, and it's this wonderful experience you have working with colour and light. I really love it. So I basically work in fused glass.
Opal Seabrook is one of our younger members. This is fused work in a kiln, so it's all glass apart from the camera. She does incorporate found objects as well. Obviously pop art is a great influence to her, but she does some really interesting work, and she's also a master barber as well at the same time, wins prizes cutting men's hair and into wonderful shapes and creations. So she's a very interesting character. Andrea Spencer, this is the person we couldn't think of who exhibited in Blackthorpe House up in the Lake District. She does a lot of work with lamp work, but she also makes installations as well. And Nancy Sutcliffe, another one of our wonderful engravers. She creates beautiful pieces, often with the human form in them, and recently she's been gilding just parts of the body. So very, very stunning work.
Roberta Mason. Her work's inspired by her underwater experiences, because she is basically a diver, and she loves the language of bubbles and the amazing world of strange and wonderful marine creatures that she encounters while she's underwater. And this piece, for instance, represents capturing the bubbles. Yoshika Okada. Yoshika's work explores background and her current English situation, and sort of the synergy and the paradoxes of the different sort of influences that her culture versus the culture she's now in create. Jacques Pavlovsky, her work reflects her eclectic interest in culture, architecture, the human form, textiles and nature. Great colours.
David Freaky, who's this?
Never heard of him.
David's one of our foremost figurative sculptors. He doesn't really care much about glass, as you probably see. Most people want it to look beautiful. David seems to try and destroy it. But he's always, he works from drawings. He sits down for days and does loads of drawings, and then he tries to recreate these in his work. And this is about architects and how they build houses that we maybe don't want to live in, but they like the look of them. So it's his interpretation of architects. And this is the next generation of Rikis. Our daughter started to help David, and then she said, oh, she did do sculpture at college. She did do a BA in sculpture, but then she started to work in glass herself. She's a mother with 3 children, so her work is very much influenced by a playfulness of a childlike feel about it, but quite often with a meaning, a bit more thought behind it. Bruno Romanelli, again, one of our great casters, does wonderful things with light and and colour, and spends a long time finishing his work, and they're absolutely stunning pieces. And Anthony Scala, again, Sue and I look at his work and think, oh my God, how does he do that? Because he spends hours and hours and hours polishing and cutting his work and then gluing it perfectly back together again, and is an absolute master. And yeah, we all really admire the work he does.
Pippa Stacey, her work's inspired by nature, and she specialises in Ver Eglamise work, and has also recently started doing magic lantern shows and creating magic lantern slides. And in fact, she's going to be talking to us this weekend and doing a magic lantern show for us. Morgan Stockton, again, is a recent graduate, and she uses steel and glass to create one-off sculptures which were inspired by her Birmingham industrial heritage background. Franz Wesselmann, I love Franz's work, I have to be honest. People are central to his work, and it's very much based around close observation of the natural world and often tells a story. And Cheryl Wilson Smith, her work explores the passage of time and her sense of insignificance in the vast world around us, which is perhaps a feeling that many of us have been experiencing over the last year. So we've come a long way from Sam Herman in 1966, and we're working together so we can go on a lot farther. So during the pandemic, we realised that apart from the fear of catching COVID, one of the major things that people lose with lockdown and social distancing is human contact. We knew that we needed to help our members keep in touch with each other and build our glass community, keeping it together while giving it a constant virtual hug. So since March 2020, we have organised twice weekly newsletters containing news on what members are up to during lockdown, opportunities to apply for, video links for entertainment, and details on that week's talk. We've had weekly talks from artists, gallery owners and collectors, plus advice forums and our international days, which have spanned the world's time zones. And we are about to run our first Glass Weekend extravaganza this weekend. We've also issued documents advising on such matters on how to open your studio to visitors during the pandemic, changes in exporting to Europe after Brexit, etc. We've also started online selling exhibitions which are open to all, and we have our new website.
So I'm going to take you on a quick tour. Are we all right for time, Paul?
Yes, you're fine.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now.
So I want to close mine, really, don't I?
Probably, yeah.
End show. Here we are. Ooh.
You've got to stop sharing, Sue.
Oh, sorry. I knew I'd got to do something. Oh dear, what have I done?
Just stop sharing. Yeah, can you? That's
Right,
it.
yeah. Sorry.
No, I can't see it. Oh, there we go. So this is our wonderful new website that we're very proud of. We wanted it to be beautiful. We wanted it to have lots of glass images. So I'm just going to give you a very quick tour. You can find a glass artist up here. So if you want to find somebody, you can put a name in here and hopefully they will come up. You can also search by region or technique. So if you want to look at all the lamp workers, you can find them using these buttons and find your way around that. I'll come back to exhibitions. This is our new magazine and news on the website. So it replaces our two printed ones, and it's full of information for our makers. But anybody really, come and have a look. And the Coburg Prize is up and running for next year, so we're telling our members about that. There's a whole list of events and different articles, and these are kept on the website for a long time, so you can go through the buttons and find quite a lot of information on there. Coming back from the top, we also have a notice board, and this is where we can advertise anything you want us to advertise, Paul. We have lots of information again about events that are happening. People tell us, and we put them on here and advertise it. And we're very generous. We don't mind who we help, because we know we're all in this together. Our resources is a resource for our members, but other people can look at it as well. And we have all glass organisations, museums, some videos. And if you are a member, there's a members area, and in our members area, we have all our talks. So these are all the talks we've done over the shutdown. So a lot of talks with a lot of very well-known glass artists. But I'm afraid you do have to become a member to have access to them. And then coming back to, we have a bit about CGS. So if you want to know more, this will tell you all about us and the team. This is our team of board members, and we have a milestone history running over the last 10 years with information there. Coming back up, so back to the exhibitions. Oh, you can also, if you want to, you can donate to us. So we've got a donate button, which we're always encouraging people to come and have a look at. This is us in one of the festivals. We love this photograph. It just shows you how wonderfully happy we all are. So back to the exhibitions, and we always have a current exhibition. This one at the moment is called A Postcard From, and it was a suggestion from Alan J. Paul that in the heart of the pandemic and when we were all locked down, that maybe we could make some really interesting work that would give us memories of days gone by. So I think we've got over 50 people taking part in this show, and it's a sewing show. Oh look, there's Sue's. A Postcard from Wonderland.
That was very appropriate.
They're all very reasonable. They're all set between £50 and £150, I think. So you can visit all of these later and have a look. And I think probably, I don't know, I think it's almost half of them have sold now. So we're very pleased about that, because it's one way we can help our members to sell their work. And also on the exhibition tab, we have all our past exhibitions. So you can come back in. This is the graduates from last year. We didn't do a graduate review last year, but we did hold an online exhibition for them. And again, they were incredibly grateful to just be able to show their work in such difficult situation. So you can really at your leisure come onto the site and just stroll through and look at past exhibitions, and it will give you a really good insight into contemporary work. Some of this is international work, some of it is UK. It's not all members of CGS. Sometimes we have open shows where we encourage other people to take part as well. So that's a quick tour of our website. I will stop sharing now.
Okay, so at the moment, the future is even more uncertain than usual, but we can both promise you that the Contemporary Glass Society is facing it with enthusiasm, purpose and a passion to promote and support its members, the glass community and contemporary glass. One thing that has become apparent during the pandemic is a sense of community and collaboration within the glass world. So once again, I thank you for your continuing support for contemporary glass, and we look forward to working together to build upon the links established between ourselves and to create an ongoing conversation about contemporary glass. And we would be delighted to invite you to any of our lectures that we think might be of particular interest to you, and also to invite you to the official online opening parties that we are holding for each of our season of online exhibitions. So once again, thank you very much for your support and for your interest in the Contemporary Glass Society.
Well, Sue and Pam, I have to say, I am wiser by a long way than I was before. And I think it's been absolutely stunning. Now I'm going to do something. If I can see that Lee's still with us. Yes, he is. Lee, Lee is the chairman of our board of trustees for our charity fund. And I think he has a little bit of news for you.
Certainly do. Certainly do. Sue, Pam, thank you so much. I can only echo Paul's words. I thought I knew a little of the Contemporary Glass Society, probably courtesy of Mr. Holford more than anything else, but I know a great deal more now, and your work is quite remarkable. You did write to me in January, Pam, to ask about the possibility of the charity fund supporting what may become the Contemporary Glass Society Glass Sellers Graduate Prize. And we had a meeting on Monday, and I did discuss with Paul, would I just send you an email? And then, of course, we said, well, of course, we'll be seeing Pam and Sue on Thursday. So what a perfect opportunity to announce that the trustees will be supporting in this year the graduate prize, and glass sellers, you can see where your charity is continuing to support contemporary glass in the United Kingdom and abroad. So thank you very much. We're delighted to be working with you even more closely.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I mean, more than ever this year, it's so important for our graduates, because they've had sorry, I'm a bit emotional.
Good, lovely, because it matters, doesn't it? And that's delightful.
Yeah, they've had two very difficult years, and it's been really hard for them to produce their work and to carry on. But they have, because they're so determined. So we really feel how important it is to give them something to work towards. So this is a wonderful prize. And in the past, we've been very mean. We've only given them, I think, £250. But with your money, we're upping that to £500, you know, increasing it, as well as producing the magazine, which does cost us a lot of money. But thank you. That's really great news.
Yeah, thank you. I can't tell you how much we appreciate that. It will be so valuable to them. And you know, graduates are having not only a tough time, but glass education generally is having such a tough time. Anything that we can do to keep graduates learning and studying glass, because otherwise, you know, they are our future really. And thank you. We really appreciate it.
I mean, that's the other thing that tutors do tell us, that when their students win these prizes, it really helps them, because they go back into the academia and say, look, you know, your student has won this prize. And it helps keep these courses that are very vulnerable going. So it helps in lots of different ways.
It also occurred to me that you mentioned about engaging with schools, and I think there's a conversation there that we could have with the charity, because we have our Glass in Society project, which is engaging with glass-related projects in schools, which has been running now for some considerable time. So I think that's another conversation that we could talk about, engaging with that. In fact, I think there's grounds for quite a lot of conversation. And I'm sure that once it's been declared and agreed by the United Nations that next year will be the International Year of Glass, the master will be, at that time, will be Barbara Beedman, who's presently our Prime Warden. And we are heading up a small team to start discussing what we might do. And I'm sure that we will putting our arms out to embrace that year and working with organizations like yours, and you can be working with us as well, so that we can make it a really stupendous year for glass and the promotion of glass.
That would be wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
It's good to see you there, Barbara.
Ladies, I would like to thank you for the trip down memory lane, because my old boss, Managing Director of Plowden & Thompson, Sam Robinson, was one of the founders of British Artists in Glass.
Oh,
and
right.
I've been to many conferences where I've drunk too much wild pig red wine, and I've had a wonderful time. So thank you, ladies.
Do we have any more questions from anybody?
Can I just add my thanks to Lee for supporting it? I think that's a tremendous, tremendous news. And for me, I think it's really important that we all work together. I think some of you know that I'm not sure whether I've officially become, but I'm about to become the patron of the Guild of Glass Engravers. And I see it as really, really important that all of us work together to promote glass. And as Richard will tell you, I'm very keen that we also try and bring the industrial glassmakers of the UK together with glass artists, because I think there are opportunities for both to benefit from that collaboration.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I can just add to what Mark was saying, Glass Futures is just applying for planning permission for its new research facility in St Helens, and we have not formally earmarked a proper space yet for glass artistry, but that is our intention. We haven't actually earmarked any spaces for anything yet. So we hope that we'll be able to interface with glass artists in general.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
Fantastic. Any more questions, ladies and gentlemen? I think I'll hand over to the master then.
Jenny wants to ask something.
Well, I was just wondering if Paul had mentioned the International Year of Glass. Hopefully will be 2022, we're not quite sure, I'm sure. But whether you have thought of any ideas or themes that you might follow in the contemporary glass world. Have you got any ideas of what you might do to celebrate?
We've got a whole program we're working on over the 12 months. So what a different event every month or a celebration. So we're looking at education. I can't remember. Can you remember, Sue, off the top of your head?
Yeah, so different talks, events. Again, so trying to do things where we actually are working with sectors of the community as well. So that again, it's a whole year where every month there is something different for our members, but also, as you say, to actually ensure that the general public are made much more aware and appreciate glass.
I think on that note,
I was also, if I might just say, quite intrigued to hear that you must be one of the few organisations that are wholly female directors on the board. Or did I get that right?
No, we've got 2 men.
Oh, you have got to. You didn't show photos of them. You only showed photos of the females.
We do outnumber them, though.
You do allow them in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, on the note of the International Year of Glass and what you're planning, I would suggest that you either engage with Barbara or myself and pass by your ideas, because there might be some events that we might decide that we'd like to share with you and join with you in doing.
Right.
We haven't actually formulated what we're going to do yet. We've got ideas we're talking about, but if they run in parallel with something that you're doing, then there would be no reason to run one separately ourselves when we could perhaps do something better jointly.
Yeah.
And that was one of the main...
That's the way, I mean, that's how we've found our survival in a way, is finding partners. It's been fantastic, working with National Glass Centre, the festival up in Northlands, and you know, I think, you know, with glass is a small small subject, and we have to pull all our resources together really to make it bigger.
I do think that by talking to each other, I mean, historically, the glass industry has never worked in harmony. They've always protected their own recipes and their own things. I mean, if you look at the fights that were going on in the early 1900s amongst various glass manufacturers. But I mean, certainly in these days, then competition is excellent. It gives people grounds to grow. And certainly with the project which is being headed up by our Richard Katz with Glass Futures, this is a totally new dynamic approach to looking at the manufacture of glass and the integration of the glass industries working together. And I think the artists should do exactly the same. And an organization like your own is doing just that. You're making people talk to each other and share so that they both have excellent experiences.
Absolutely.
It's interesting that you may not have picked up, but Ian Chadwick won the Arts and Crafts Award in 2019, and Bruno Romanelli was runner-up. And we've had a presentation from Bruno. Ian's going to do us one in a couple of weeks' time. The winner of our student was Callum Dawes. I'm in consultation with him and speak to him quite regularly because he's quite a character.
I've never spoken to him.
Oh, have you not? He's a real character. And the other interesting one is his partner, who is Emma Goring, who actually won the second prize, who's working in Scandinavia. Who beats him up regularly because, I mean, she has a website and he doesn't because he hasn't got round to doing it. And he's doing some great work. And he's just, you say he's just won the Moriarty. I think he's won another award just recently. And he's got work going off for exhibition in China. And
he was our runner-up in the graduate prize as well. So
I mean, he's doing some stunning work. And but he's a bit of a waif sometimes. He's quite a character.
Well,
I love chatting with him.
He's the one person who didn't actually ever get his prize. I don't think he's ever claimed his vouchers that he won. Because he's so laid back.
It doesn't surprise me in the slightest. He's almost doing backflips. He's so laid back. Anyway, on that note, we're running on a little bit over time, so I'll hand over to the master to finish the evening. If he's there.
Sue and Pam, thank you for a brilliant, professional and inspirational presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I'm astonished by the degree of, and hugely impressed by the degree of your personal commitment, dedication, enthusiasm and energy. I don't know how you do it all. I mean, it's the CGS is the most buzzing and active organisation I've seen presented to us, I think, ever.
Oh, great.
I mean, it clearly depends on you too.
Well, we are.
Can say is whatever you do, don't get run over by a bus.
We are a very good double act.
You are brilliant. I'm just overwhelmed and astonished, and that was really inspirational. And the glass sellers company, the worshipful company of glass sellers in full of London, we must say, is proud to have a working association and connection with the CGS.
Oh.
Thank you so much for all you do to support your artists and students and encourage them and find money for them and all that sort of thing. And all these amazing exhibitions and things you organise all over the place. Quite a lot. So on behalf of the Worship Company of Glass Sellers, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, it's just to remind you that we are sharing an evening with the Glass Society on Tuesday, when our liveryman, Stephen Pollock-Hill, will be talking about an area of France which is famous for making perfume bottles. And if you want to attend that, you must read the email that I've sent, because you have to register with the Glass Society to have access to that. And then on Thursday, we'll have our usual gathering. And this time we will be entertained by Rona Levine, Blue Badge Guide of London, who's going to show us some of the areas of London and the parks that she's been walking through during the pandemic, and giving us an insight to some interesting historical facts about London.
And Paul, another schools presentation tomorrow to RAF.
We've got schools tomorrow. We're going to
we'll encourage our members to attend these schools presentations.
Tomorrow we're presenting a cheque to the school at RAF Leeming up in North Yorkshire, and then we have another presentation next week, which I've yet to just formulate and put it together. Stunning presentations. I'm waiting to get the details of the presentation we did last Monday, which was to the Brook Special Needs School. And if you ever needed inspiration of a teacher and how much they put into looking after their children, the teacher that applied for the money has a class of children that cannot communicate at all. And they are inspiring them with science and the equipment that we're actually providing for them to be able to use. And it was quite inspirational, but I'm just waiting to get the videos to be able to formulate it and put it onto our YouTube channel. On that note, I think I will wish you all a very good evening. Thank you very much for popping in, and look forward to seeing you again online. And just think, if all goes well and the government doesn't change its mind, the 22nd of June, we will be at Vintners Hall having our first livery dinner.
Wonderful for you.
So good night to you all.
And Pam and Sue, again, thank you so much. Wonderful.
Thank you, Pam and Sue.
Okay. Can I just say, I think you've got a wonderful clerk in Paul. He's doing amazing things for you. I mean, the newsletters and all these talks, it's just incredible. So you have a gem as well.
So do we. Thank you very much.
Don't talk about him like that. His head gets big.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. God bless everybody, and take very good care.
Bye.